Have you ever felt like you're stuck waiting for your real life to begin? Like you're always preparing for something that never quite arrives? Always about to become someone you never quite become? Jung called this the Puella Aeterna, the eternal girl who lives forever on the threshold of her own existence, never quite stepping through. From smiling through conversations that drain the soul, from agreeing when every instinct screams otherwise, from carrying everyone's comfort while forgetting what peace feels like in the body. It's the tiredness of living half a life, always preparing to be ready, always about to begin, always tomorrow. Not because she can't, but because arriving means something she's been taught to fear. It means taking up space without permission. The modern world offers endless ways to avoid this arrival. Scroll through another routine promising transformation. Buy another journal that will remain mostly empty. Start another Monday with fresh intentions that fade by Wednesday. The marketplace of healing has become a refuge for those who want to feel like they're changing without actually changing anything. But beneath the surface rituals lies something more complex. The woman caught in this pattern isn't lazy or shallow. She's caught between worlds. The world that raised her to be agreeable and the world that demands she be authentic. The world that rewarded her smallness and the world that now asks her to be whole. There's a difference between healing and hiding, between rest and resistance, between gentle self-care and the subtle ways we postpone our own lives. The Puella Aeterna knows this difference intimately, even if she can't name it. She feels it in the way she says yes when she means no, in the way she prepares for conversations instead of simply having them, in the way she researches confidence instead of trusting what she already knows, in the way she's always getting ready to live instead of living. Carl Jung understood that this wasn't about age or maturity in the traditional sense. It was about something deeper, the willingness to inhabit the fullness of one's own experience, to stop being a guest in her own life. But we haven't even reached the most important part yet. The Puella Aeterna exists in a state of perpetual becoming. She's always on the verge of something. The right relationship, the right career, the right version of herself. But this constant preparation becomes its own prison. It's safer to remain potential than to risk being seen as imperfect reality. Jung recognized that this pattern often stems from an early disconnection from one's own authority. Somewhere along the way, the message became clear. Other people's comfort matters more than internal truth. Other people's approval carries more weight than self-knowledge. Other people's needs are more urgent than personal boundaries. The cost of this disconnection runs deeper than most realize. It's not just about being too nice or people-pleasing. It's about a fundamental split between who she is and who she thinks she should be. Between what she feels and what she thinks she should feel. Between what she wants and what she thinks she should want. This split creates a particular kind of loneliness. The loneliness of being known but not truly seen. Of being loved for who she pretends to be rather than who she actually is. Of being needed for what she provides rather than valued for who she is when she's not providing anything at all. The Puella Aeterna becomes expert at reading rooms, at sensing what others need, at adjusting her energy to match what's expected. But this constant attunement to external signals drowns out her own inner voice. She becomes fluent in everyone's language except her own. Jung saw this as a form of spiritual bypassing, using eternal youthfulness and possibility as a way to avoid the weight of actual existence. The weight of having opinions that might disappoint others. The weight of setting boundaries that might create conflict. The weight of being fully present in a life that isn't perfect. But there's something else Jung understood that often gets overlooked.
The Puella Aeterna isn't weak. She's often incredibly strong. Strong enough to carry everyone else's emotions. Strong enough to sacrifice her own needs. Strong enough to maintain peace at the cost of her own truth. The problem isn't her strength. The problem is where she's directing it. True growing up, what Jung called individuation, isn't about becoming harder or more selfish. It's about developing what might be called emotional sovereignty. The ability to feel what she feels without immediately needing to change it, fix it, or apologize for it. The ability to want what she wants without endless justification. The ability to be present in her own life without constantly checking if she's doing it right. This requires grieving the fantasy of the perfect life, the perfect self, the perfect response to every situation. It requires accepting that being real means being imperfect, that being present means feeling uncomfortable things, that being authentic means sometimes disappointing people. The woman who grows up in this deeper sense learns to trust her own experience as valid information. She learns that her feelings aren't problems to be solved, but intelligence to be honored. She learns that her needs aren't selfish impositions, but necessary data about what it means to be human. She begins to understand that softness and power aren't opposites, but partners. That boundaries aren't walls, but bridges to deeper connection. That saying no to what doesn't serve her is saying yes to what does.
The shift from Puella Aeterna to psychologically mature woman isn't dramatic. It's quiet. It happens in small moments of choosing truth over comfort, authenticity over approval, presence over perfection. It's the moment she stops mid-sentence and says what she actually means instead of what she thinks others want to hear. It's the decision to feel disappointed rather than pretend everything is fine. It's the choice to be quiet instead of filling every silence with reassurance. This maturation isn't about becoming someone new. It's about becoming who she's always been underneath the layers of adaptation and performance. It's about remembering that her worth isn't contingent on her usefulness. Her happiness isn't responsible for others' comfort. Her gentleness isn't weakness. Jung understood that this process requires what he called holding the tension of opposites, the ability to be both soft and strong, both caring and boundaried, both connected and autonomous. The Puella Aeterna tries to resolve this tension by choosing one side, usually the side that keeps everyone else comfortable. But psychological maturity means learning to live in this tension without collapsing it, to be gentle without being passive, to be strong without being hard, to be present without being consumed. The woman who completes this journey discovers something profound. She doesn't need to earn her place in the world. She doesn't need to prove her worth through service or sacrifice. She doesn't need permission to exist fully. She learns that the most radical act might be simply showing up as herself, not the polished version, not the agreeable version, not the version that makes everyone comfortable, but the version that is real, present, and unapologetically human. There's a particular kind of peace that comes from no longer trying to be perfect, from no longer apologizing for taking up space, from no longer postponing authenticity until some future moment when it will be more convenient or less risky. The woman who grows up in Jung's deepest sense doesn't become less caring or less gentle. She becomes more discerning about where to direct her care, more intentional about her gentleness, more present in her own life. She learns that maturity isn't about having everything figured out. It's about being willing to not know while still choosing to show up, to feel uncertain while still trusting her own experience, to be imperfect while still taking up space. Maybe the greatest act of growing up is simply this: deciding that her own life is worth inhabiting fully, that her own experience is worth trusting, that her own presence is enough. In the end, the question isn't whether she's grown up enough. The question is whether she's ready to stop waiting for permission to be who she already is. And perhaps that's where true freedom begins, not in the endless preparation for life, but in the simple act of living it.